This holiday season, prepare to have the stuffing scared out of you. Thanksgiving.
So we have this Thanksgiving movie that just came out last night, or came out today, and it is based on that fake trailer from the 2007 main event, or movie event, I should say, Grindhouse. So that was that movie that came out back then. We had this. We have two movies here back to back. You would go to the theater, and you would watch Planet Terror, which was directed by Robert Rodriguez, and then Death Proof, which was directed by Quentin Tarantino. It was a 3-hour thing. You would see this movie, and that's the way it was advertised, and that's the way it was showed. And then they added these little like fake trailers between the two movies. We have these little fake trailers, and one of them was Thanksgiving. Now Eli Roth, he directed that fake trailer, and then there were some other movies that were also fake trailers, like Machete, and they actually did make a movie of that. That was Robert Rodriguez's idea there, so they did make Machete, and then actually made Machete Kills, so they made a sequel of that. And there was some other movie, I forgot what it was called, that was also made into a movie, but this is actually the third one from the fake trailers that they're actually making it into a movie. And here we have Thanksgiving. You know, it's a horror movie, and for some of you guys who may not be familiar with Eli Roth, you know, his movies are kind of, I would say, a little ridiculous sometimes when it comes to the violence and, you know, things like that. He directed Hostel, Cabin Fever, The Green Inferno, and he also co-starred with Brad Pitt in the Inglourious Bastards. You know, so that was him as an actor, he wasn't a director or anything like that. But this movie, Thanksgiving, it was again directed by Eli Roth from a screenplay written by Jeff Rendell, and like I said, it is based on Roth's mock trailer of the same name. And then the other movie that I mentioned earlier is called Hobo with a Shotgun, 2011. So I guess that's when that movie came out. Like I said, I'm not familiar with it at all, but I guess that was one of the other movies that came out of those fake trailers. This is a non-spoiler review of Thanksgiving, so there'll be no spoilers here. You know, we have the positives and the negatives that I usually like to go into when it comes to reviewing films and things like that, so that's not going to be any different here. We have Billy Goat 126 Chevo saying hi. So hello, Chevo. So Chevo is in the live chat right now. He's been in the channel before. It's been a while, but he's been in the channel before. So hello there, Chevo. So let's begin here. So we have, well, actually, let me just say this right off the bat. And I think I always do this when I have a movie that I did actually like. So there's going to be a lot more positives than negatives in this movie. So one of the things that I liked about this, because I wasn't sure how this movie was going to actually turn out, because I just showed you the little clip of the trailer, of the fake trailer, and then it went into the actual real trailer for this movie. So I wasn't sure how Eli Roth was going to actually turn this into a movie, right? Was it going to be kind of like the way that we saw it in the trailer, you know, with even like the look of making it look like it's older than it really is, or were they actually going to be like a contemporary, you know, current timeline of the movie or whatever? That part I didn't know. So obviously it's set during contemporary times, during, you know, now. So that was one of the things that I was kind of trying to find out what would be part of this. So we have this movie, and apparently the fake trailer is actually based on an idea that Eli Roth and his childhood friend, apparently they were, when they were younger, when they were like, I think like 12 years old or 11 years old, I guess they were probably like aspiring filmmakers or whatever the case, aspiring writers, big fans of horror and things like that. So, because I did watch a couple of his interviews pertaining to this movie. So what he said is the idea of Thanksgiving actually came from him and his friend when they wanted to make a horror movie sometime in the future, you know, like, you know, just throwing out ideas like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this in the future or whatever. And I guess their idea was, we have Michael Myers and Halloween. We have some other horror movies that are set during Christmas. They are set during Valentine's Day, like what is that movie called, My Bloody Valentine or whatever. So we have all these characters that are based off a specific holiday or whatever. And since Eli Roth and his friend, they're from Massachusetts, so they always thought of, why don't we make a movie set in Thanksgiving, and then we have a killer that is set on Thanksgiving. I guess their original idea was to have like a pilgrim, right? Because, you know, they're from Massachusetts. We have Plymouth. That's where the whole Thanksgiving thing started, right? So they were like, let's have a pilgrim. And they used kind of like a pilgrim type of killer or whatever for the fake trailer. But this kind of evolved as they actually started to really make this into an actual film. Apparently they discovered there's this governor of Plymouth. So actually let me get into some of that information a little bit more here. We have here, so we have the killer design, right? So it's the one that you see here on the screen. The killer design, again, is based on John Carver. And according to history on the internet and Eli Roth, John Carver was one of the pilgrims who braved the Mayflower voyage in 1620, which resulted in the creation of Plymouth Colony in America. He is credited with writing the Mayflower Compact and was its first signer. And he was also the first governor of Plymouth Colony. So that's where they got the idea of the killer in Thanksgiving, right? So then they looked at a photo of him, like a portrait, well, not like an actual photo, but like a portrait, like a painting, and then they use that as the mask. So maybe you've seen, you know, like you see right here, that's kind of like the mask. That's what John Carver is supposed to look like, or was looking like back then. Billy Goat again says here, campy gore type. Yeah, I guess so. Campy, a little bit campy, but not super campy. I mean, yes, it's definitely there, but there's been some other more ridiculous campy that it's not good. Like for some reason, Eli Roth is able to actually balance it to be entertaining and funny, but it's still effective and good, in my opinion anyways. We have Nicole Hooferd says, I can't do scary movies. And no, some people they just can't do scary movies, you know, for whatever reason. Either they're scary or they're too gory or too bloody or whatever. But you know, it is what it is. But going back here, so that was kind of like the original ideas of this. Now, the other thing that Eli Roth also said, one of the victims in the movie, that one of the people that gets killed by the killer here, John Carver, killer wearing the John Carver mask, apparently one of the actual actors playing the victim is actually connected to the real John Carver, right? So there's actually some bloodline or whatever. So according to Roth, one of the victims in Thanksgiving is an actual blood relative of John Carver, which I think that I find that pretty cool. And then I know who it is. I know who was the actor or actress performing the character and that was killed. I'm not going to say who it was because that would be spoiler territory, and this is a non-spoiler review, but one of the victims in Thanksgiving actually is a blood relative of the real John Carver from centuries ago or whatever. That was one of the positive things. The design, the killer design, the whole idea that I just explained to you guys based on Eli Roth, that is definitely one of the things that I really, really liked. The opening scene, you might have seen the actual trailer of the movie. You might have seen that. So there's a part where they're talking about it's Black Friday. And again, I'm not going to get into details of it because again, that would be very spoilery. But it has something to do with Black Friday. And that opening scene was a lot of fun. Like I said, if you're into horror, it definitely has its bloodiness, its goriness. So that's definitely there. So I like the opening. I thought it was really cool. Another positive thing here is, I kind of already mentioned this, but we have the ridiculousness. There's actually a decent amount of funny scenes in the middle of the horror ambience, right? So there's a lot of that going on here. And it works because it could have been really, really bad. You know, I think it would be hard to balance something like that when it comes to something that is supposed to be kind of campy and funny and yet horror. And there's a lot of like gore and blood and all this other stuff. So he was able to blend this and balance it together, and it worked really, really well. And there's one particular scene that I'm thinking in my head right now, no pun intended, regarding heads, like actual heads. You'll know what I'm talking about if you watch this movie, which you definitely should. That was kind of hilarious. So that's another positive, another pro from this movie here. Now the kills, which I kind of mentioned this a little bit. The kills is the way that the victims are killed, right? So they're very creative ways, and Eli Roth does that a lot when it comes to his kills in his films. He finds like creative ways of presenting them, and there's definitely a lot of them here. And some of them are like so ridiculous that you just like I think I started busting out laughing in a couple of them, but it was fun. Like it still worked, everything was still good and everything. So that was definitely a positive. And just the characters, there's some characters. There's some that are not really likable, but you're not supposed to like them. But yeah, it's just the characters are much better than other typical horror movies. And I'm not saying that these are great characters, amazing characters, or anything like that. That's not different what I'm saying. But so let me get into some of the negatives. So there are a couple of negatives. Like I said, not as many as the positives, but there are a couple of negatives there. Within the ridiculousness, some scenes were so like random and unnecessary. Someone says something or does something that's like, well, that's like dumb. It's like, it doesn't, like, why even add that in there? That didn't work. And then another thing is, I'm also not a fan of fake jump scares just in general. When I was younger, like I liked them because like, ooh, little jump scare, and I was like, I liked them when I was younger. But like as an adult, it's like especially, or I should say mainly, because when they like bump into someone, and then they cue the sound, the suspenseful sound or music or whatever, and ends up not being anything. This happens once or twice, I think, in this movie, and I think that's it. I don't think there's that many moments or instances like that throughout the movie, but that would definitely be a negative. I never really liked that as an adult. So it does have that. So it definitely could have been, we could have gone without all that stuff, right? So yeah, so that's, again, like I said, this is the Thanksgiving non-spoiler review, Eli Roth. And I'll give you my overall thoughts here about the movie. Like I said, it just came out last night. Today is the first full day that is out in theaters. Now, while I was watching some of the interviews and reading some of the articles with Eli Roth, like I said, the director, is he's always pushing that you should see it in the theater. And this is something that I always say myself. I think a lot of like big film buffs or like aspiring filmmakers in the past or current, I think we always advocate for watching it in theaters. And this is definitely one of them. Eli Roth was just pushing, you guys should watch this movie in theaters with a big group, opening weekends, so that you can get the reaction from the audience, especially with all the craziness and the kills and the horror stuff that goes on in this movie. I definitely recommend you to do that. Like I said, if you're not a big horror fan, that you don't like anything gory at all, if you've seen some of Eli Roth's movies in the past that you didn't like, then obviously I don't think that you would like this. Overall, I did like Thanksgiving. The expectations that I had for this movie, especially a movie like this, and from the fake trailers that we first saw in 2007's Grindhouse movie event, Thanksgiving did meet my expectations, and I really do think it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. We have another holiday-themed horror movie, right? Thanksgiving, set in Massachusetts, set in Plymouth. Thanksgiving, pilgrims, John Carver. We don't know who the killer is, so it has a little bit of a Scream thing, or like an urban legends thing, or like I Know What You Did Last Summer type of thing for all those people who like those slasher movies from the 90s. It has a little bit of flavor of that, so I like that. And just overall, it was a fun experience. It was a fun, movie going experience, and I'm glad I watched it in theaters, and I think all you guys should watch it in theaters too. So I'll be like Eli Roth and and push that, right? Like I always do with these movies, it's either see it, stream it, or skip it, and then I give you a grade of the movie. So obviously Thanksgiving is a see it, definitely see it. If you can watch it in theaters, it's best that you see it in theaters, in my opinion. I am going to give it a B plus, which is pretty high. I mean, I think it's pretty high. I rarely give like an A minus or anything higher in movies because, I don't know, it's just like, it has to be very more like in the perfection range. But this is just my opinion, obviously. The movie canon, Thanksgiving is a see it, grade B plus. And actually in 2023, there's been a lot better movies than last year. Like there's a lot more movies this year that I watched that I actually really liked compared to last year. I think last year I had maybe like one A minus movie. This year I've already had like 3, and then obviously this movie here, it's pretty high, at least in my opinion. So definitely see it. Like I said, if you're a big horror fan, I would recommend you watch it, before Thanksgiving or during Thanksgiving or whatever. Those are my thoughts on Eli Roth's Thanksgiving movie.